September 2015 against the backdrop of lingering uneven recovery in the global economy and slowing domestic growth. In attendance were 10 out of 12 members. The committee reviewed developments in global and domestic economic and financial environments in the first 8 months of 2015 in order to provide a policy direction for the rest of the fiscal year of 2015. The committee observed a divergence in global economic environment with a gradual but steady growth in the United States and United Kingdom, but a slowdown in emerging and developing economies. The underlying drivers of growth in the advanced economies included improving financial conditions and consumer sentiment, suppressed commodity prices, and favorable labor market conditions. On the flip side, the slowdown in the emerging and developing economies is mainly attributable to tight external financial conditions, mostly in...
Pardon my manners, welcome back to another episode of the Navigate Review. This time I'm continuing my series with the CBN's MPC briefing from the 99th, and now we're on the 103rd. Of course, this was in July 2015. Oh, okay, September 2015. This is 103rd.
The direct consequence of reduced revenues from weak commodity prices, fragile global demand, and other geopolitical factors. Aided by strong consumer spending, continuous improvement in the housing and labor markets, and wage growth, the United States continues to benefit from soft energy and other commodity prices, evidenced by the country's revised second quarter 2015 GDP growth of 3.7%. Growth outlook in the second half, however, remains moderate as exports could slow on the heels of a strengthening dollar and slowing growth in China. The Bank of Japan maintained accommodative monetary policy through its assets purchasing program, with monthly injection of 6.7 trillion Japanese yen, resulting in stronger than anticipated second quarter growth. Following its September 3rd, 2015 meeting, the European Central Bank (Mpcb) retained its key policy rate, even as its assets purchase program continued while inflation remained largely subdued. In the United Kingdom, the Bank of England also continued its assets purchase program as the economy maintained a robust growth path in the second quarter, with a modest uptick in inflation. These developments have started to trigger the debate over when the Bank of England will start raising its rates. Mindful of the potential impacts of a rate adjustment, particularly on the emerging markets, and considering the sluggish recovery in the euro area and Japan, as well as the need to firm up recent growth and employment gains in the domestic economy, the US Fed voted at its September meeting to maintain its key interest rate and delay monetary policy normalization. The decision is expected to strengthen stability in global economy and moderate volatility in the financial markets, while also consolidating recovery at home. In the emerging markets and developing economies, expectations of low growth continued into the third quarter of 2015, with strong likelihood of moderate uptick in 2016. Output growth in China at 7% in the second quarter of 2015 is expected to moderate further due to slower productivity and exports, collapsing asset value and excess capacity in the manufacturing sector. Global inflation is expected to remain tepid as the recent temporary rebound in oil prices and stronger consumer sentiments have mildly raised consumer prices in the advanced economies. Consumer price developments were mixed in emerging and developing economies. Commodity importing economies have continued to benefit from low global oil and other commodity prices, while others, especially exporters of primary commodities, are contending with increased pressure on their currencies and fiscal positions, and in some cases, significant inflation pass-through to domestic prices.
So far, he has given, as is the culture with these briefings, he has given some overview of what's happening around the world with global finance, global central banking. He mentioned the Bank of Japan, the Bank of England, expecting when they will raise rates. The US, he referred to strong consumer spending and a 3.7% GDP growth rate. He talked about China, excess capacity in manufacturing, and a 7% output growth so far, and this was in September. So I would take it that this is a review of June, August, and September. The last briefing was in July. That was 102nd. So all of this is just general. What's the global environment like when it comes to the money market, the central banking in general? And then he talked about developing economies as to consumer price development, something in those lines I didn't quite pick, but also part of what is being observed.
domestic economic and financial development. Output growth in the first half of 2015 trended downwards from the level in the fourth quarter of 2014, mainly on account of softening oil prices. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, real GDP grew by 2.35% in the second quarter of 2015, a significant decrease when compared with the 3.96% and 6.54% in the preceding quarter and corresponding period of 2014, respectively. Real GDP growth is projected by the National Bureau of Statistics to stabilize at 2.63% in 2015, compared with the 6.22% recorded in 2014. The non-oil sector remained the main driver of growth in the second quarter of 2015 at 3.46%. The key drivers were services, trade, agriculture, contributing 1.80, 0.95, and 0.82 percentage points respectively. On the other hand, oil and natural gas sector declined by 0.73 percentage points, an improvement of 1.13 percentage points relative to the first quarter of 2015. The overall outlook for economic activity is expected to improve on account of sustained improvement in the supply of power and refined petroleum products and progress with counter-insurgency in the northeastern part of Nigeria.
So, like every other briefing that I have watched so far, or maybe not every other, at least two others, this breakdown of GDP growth rates as projected by the NBS or reported by the NBS was supposed to be 2.63%, I think, for the half year. For that part of the year in 2015, this is September, non-oil sector constituted the bulk of what created progress, trade, services, and I think one more. But oil sector was declining, according to him. They are then looking at the progress that would be achieved in the rest of the year would be based on safer livelihoods in the northeast. This was, a tough time. We were dealing with insurgency at the time and also getting power rights. He mentioned the same thing in the last briefing. And imagine that we were trying to get power rights so economy can flow or can grow at faster rates, can be much better for people. And this was 2015. This is 11 years ago. So I'm saying that nobody needs to tell us. I'm just passing this comment. Nobody needs to tell us that we need the power sector to function well before economy can, blossom properly. But this is what the CBN gives us every 2 months. We basically repeat what every economist or every random person should know. When there is power, there is growth. So these recommendations come from this high authority, but they are super basic.
Its commitment to efforts in support of various ongoing federal government initiatives to stimulate output growth. The committee noted that the year-on-year headline inflation edged upwards to 9.3% in August from 9.2% in June and July. The increase in headline inflation in August reflected marginal increases in both the core and food components of inflation. Core inflation rose to 9% in August from 8.8% in July, while food inflation increased to 10.1% from 10.05% over the same period. Committee observed that the uptick in inflation was mainly traceable to higher energy prices, delayed harvest, and passed through from imports. It however noted, with satisfaction, the continued moderation in all measures of month-on-month inflation across all the measures. In August, on a month-on-month basis,
I want to rehash the things that he attributes the reason for this level of inflation. Food inflation 10%, core inflation 9%, headline inflation circa 9.9%. And his attribution to this is high energy prices and throughput pass through from imports. There was one more, I think insecurity. I didn't quite catch that, but I would note it down to understand what pass through from imports mean.
Headline inflation rose by 0.59% from 0.69% in July. Core inflation rose by 0.61%, same as in July. Month-on-month food inflation also moderated to 0.63% in August from 0.77% in July. The committee, while reiterating its commitment to price stability, noted that the rising inflationary trend was a concern given the already tight monetary policy stance of the central bank. Broad money supply M2 contracted by 2.23% in August 2015, below the level at end of December 2014. When analyzed, M2 contracted by 3.34%, which was significantly below the growth benchmark of 15.24% for 2015. Net domestic credit rose by 11%, which analyzes to 16.49% in the same period. At that level, net domestic credit was within the provisional benchmark of.
Okay, I didn't need to stop, but I thought that I couldn't take notes as this was speeding along, and you would notice that I sped it up to 2x, so I do not have to, record a 30-minute piece on this. I might have to do that in the future, but for now, I just would like to keep it as short as possible. I also realize that I can't write while I observe, so I need a tool that takes note of these numbers, and then I can summarize later.
29.3% for 2015. The growth in aggregate credit was attributable to growth in federal government borrowing, which reached 140% in August 2015, or 210% when analyzed. During the period under review, rates in all segments of the money market were largely influenced by the level of liquidity in the banking system. Money market interest rates were relatively volatile, reflecting fluctuations in banking system liquidity during the period. Average interbank call and open buyback rates.
Okay, network is doing that to me. Meanwhile, I did not even check if I put my mic on before starting this recording, so I'm hoping that I got it right and that everything is in good position. Okay, what's the issue? Not a YouTube ad, nothing crazy, right? Let me see if I can see what's going on. But yeah, network is all right, so I don't know why this is doing this. Okay, I think we are back. Let's get back to it.
Which opened at 10.85 and 10.65% in June 2015, closed at 1.07 and 28.1% respectively in August 2015. Average interbank call and open buyback rates for the period were 14.95 and 17.17% respectively. Committee noted the various trend in equity segment of the capital market during the period under review. The all-share index decreased by 9.3% from 33,456.
Okay, I don't like this. I don't like what the network is doing to me. I'm trying to save time. I'm also, trying to keep it as clean and as enjoyable as possible. I hope the audio is great, and I hope that yeah, it's
April on June 1, 2015 to 30,332.68 on September 18, 2015. Similarly, market capitalization fell by 8.8% from 11.42 trillion naira to 10.42 trillion naira during the same period. However, at the end of December of 2014, the indices decreased by 12.5 and 9.3% respectively. The decline in share prices year to date was largely due to the subdued sentiments.
This is not good. Why?
Preceding the general elections, which had a March and concerns for the country's foreign reserves position due to the declining global oil prices. The external sector development. The average naira exchange rate remained relatively stable at the interbank segment, but significantly volatile in the foreign exchange segment of the foreign exchange market during 196.7 naira to the dollar at 38 in 2015 for the period. The open 111 naira to 13 naira in the interbank market, attributed consequently gross of $50 at the end of July. On September 17, environment performance. Committee noted that growth had come under severe strains arising from declining private and public expenditure. In particular, it noted the impact of non-payment of salaries at the state and local government levels as a key dampening factor on domestic demand. Year-on-year headline inflation continued to trend upwards, although the month-on-month measure moderated. Demand pressure in the foreign exchange market remained significant as oil prices continued to decline. Arising from these developments, there were indications that some of the banking sector performance indicators could be stressed if conditions worsen further. Specifically, committee noted that liquidity withdrawals from the implementation of the Treasury single account, elongation of the tenure of state government loans as well as loans to the oil and gas sectors could aggravate liquidity conditions in banks and impair their financial intermediation role, thus affecting economic growth unless some actions were immediately taken to ease liquidity conditions in the market. Having seen 2 consecutive quarters of slow growth, committee recognized that the economy could slip into recession in 2016 if we're not going to revive growth in key sectors of the economy. In the face of prevailing circumstances, committee acknowledged that synergy between monetary and fiscal policies remain the most potent option to sustainable growth. The committee further observed that the impact of the persistent decline in global crude oil prices on the fiscal position of government continues to reflect in rising credit to government. The committee also noted that the initial market reaction to the decision by JP Morgan to exclude the country from its government bond index for emerging economies had largely dissipated as yields soon adjusted to their pre-announcement levels, adding that there may be second round effects over the next 2 months as the economy adjusts to that decision. The committee reiterated its unwavering commitment to Naira exchange rate stability despite the pressures. Mindful of the possibility of diversion of any extra liquidity to the foreign exchange market, the committee urged the bank to closely monitor the nature and sources of demand pressure in the foreign exchange market to ensure that funds were not diverted to demand for foreign exchange but applied to specific growth-enhancing asset creation lending by the banks. It further noted.
So, if I got that right, CBN tried to, or as part of its duties, manage how banks used or applied foreign exchange, income or earnings, whatever they had. He mentioned something in the lines of assets, nurturing or building assets. So CBN necessarily, as is its job, oversees these banks on what they do with what money.
That sectors such as agriculture and micro, small and medium enterprises and must therefore be painstakingly. Committee was of pressure on enhancing measures would over the prices. That business hold its economic plans of the administration at the sub-national levels would underscore the imperative and building fiscal buffer, which is the Monetary Committee also observed that despite the Treasury stable account, banking system liquidity ratio remained.
I don't know why this network is doing this one. Well, the network here is generally terrible, so I'm writing down liquidity ratio as something to look at extensively later. I believe that implies how much money is is within the bank's purview to distribute or to um, how much liquidity is in the market. But in this case, the banking system has
Moderate. Consequently, committee advised on the urgent imperative of banks to aggressively support the efforts of government at job creation by channeling available liquidity into target.
No, I don't like this. I hope it ends at 20 so I can.
Growth enhancing sectors of the economy, such as agriculture and manufacturing. This is with a view to promoting employment creation through conscious efforts aimed at directing lending to the growth enhancing sectors of the economy. Committee considered that the bank and deposit money banks must strive to reverse the slowing gross domestic product trajectory.
So I'll just quickly make comments in the middle of these network breaks. The central bank essentially manages the entire economy. They observe when state governments or some state
by actively stepping up their efforts in catalyzing the economy with substantial new loans to the target sectors earlier highlighted. Committee's decisions. In consideration of the underlying fundamentals of the economy, particularly the declining output growth, rising unemployment, evolving international economic environment, as well as the need to properly position the economy on a sustainable growth path, the Monetary Policy Committee decided by a vote of 7 to reduce the cash reserve requirement ratio from 31% to 25%, while 3 voted to hold. By a unanimous vote, MPC voted to retain.
Cash reserve ratio dropping from 31 to 25, majority decision of the committee members.
The MPR at 13%. In summary, the MPC voted to 1. Reduce the CRR from 31 to 25%. 2. Retain the MPR at 13%. Retain symmetric corridor at 200 basis points around the MPR. And 4. Retain the liquidity ratio at 30%. I thank you for listening.
So I think we are basically having a repeat, especially for the MPR of the last meeting in July 2015. MPR is retained at 13% with 200 basis points asymmetric corridor and then the last one is the liquidity ratio at 30%, if I remember that correctly. So he's going to take questions now, and I will put a stop to this. The key takeaway from this for me is that I am not sure that um, the key takeaway is basically every 2 months we give a briefing of where things are. We tell the banks this is how much you can lend, this is what state, we advise state governments, we advise the entire economy on what to do and what not to do. And I'm just generally, I hope I progressively find answers and try to understand the system here and elsewhere. Why, after doing that for 12 years, how can we measure progress? Why is the money, why are things way more expensive? Is that part of the plan, or there was a glitch in the matrix? But early days now, I hope I'm able to uh, get along and understand some of these things much better. Thank you for watching. See you around.